Out. Okay. Now I'm gonna make you host.
All right, so since we're recording, I welcome you all to tonight's meeting.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Hope everyone had a happy new year, a healthy new year, and a happy holiday season. And so I'm now, if I can figure it out again, let's see, break it, it's new. Share screen. Come on, where am I? Come on. What did I do wrong here? Starting off messed up. Okay. So tonight's meeting, 7 o'clock. We're starting at 7:04. Let me mark that down. Welcome committee members. This is the agenda. Racial agenda, okay. So anyone has something coming up, you know where it is on the agenda. Welcome committee members and special guests. So here's the members of the committee. And now that I can't see people's names, I know Lisa's there, Camelia is there. Welcome. Anybody else? I'm not seeing the, I'm not looking at the faces, the boxes. Approval of November minutes. Any comments? There's one change I have to make, and Steve is not here. I use this 9 o'clock as a space. I know he left and he wasn't there for the later votes. So I put down a time. I didn't note at the time of the meeting when he had left. And he says he left before 9. So when he gets on, we'll change this to the appropriate time. But there we are. Any comments about the minutes? Make a motion to accept the minutes? Anybody? Is
You want a
anybody else?
second?
I want a second, yes.
Okay, I second.
Sylvia seconded. Well, I didn't need a motion. Make the motion first.
Oh, no wonder.
You making the motion, Sylvia?
That we accept the minutes?
Yes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as written,
Okay, anyone? Well, as amended, when Steve makes the
as
amendment.
amended, right, if it gets amended.
Any seconds? I can't take a vote until there's a second. Dan, David, are you there?
Well, I'm here. I was just looking for the minutes to pull up. Sorry.
Well, if you read quickly,
Yeah.
right here.
Can I make a quick comment? Just procedural, if Steve was, if there were votes and Steve wasn't there for it, I mean, you list the names of the people who voted. So Steve just wouldn't be listed, so you don't really have to put the time that he left the meeting.
That's true, except he wasn't there for part of the conversation.
Okay.
But there was a vote later on and he's not listed because he was here like here. He
Mhm.
wasn't there.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just looking for them on my screen. I can't read that quickly on the other one. Why am I not?
David, you have a comment? You seconding it, something?
I have no comment because I don't even know what we're looking at. Or what you are paging through right now, are those the minutes that we're discussing?
These are October's minutes.
October or,
November, sorry, November's minutes.
what, are we doing November or December? I'm sorry. Now I'm really
We
confused.
had no meeting in December.
Oh, my goodness. All right. That's why I'm, all right.
Those minutes are easy.
Well, that does make it easier.
Can we get past this, hopefully?
Yeah, I mean,
Assuming you've all read it, which apparently you didn't, does anyone have anything against the minutes? Is there a vote? Is there a negative? I'm gonna presume by a note of silence that they're approved unanimously. First item on the agenda, Chairman's report, Chairperson's report. I don't plan to go chapter and verse, to go back over tapes of where I personally have felt that there's been incivility taking place at the board. But I would like, I believe that some statement ought to be made just to make people aware that others are listening. I need to apologize to Dan publicly, even though I spoke to him privately. I said to him, "You never hear this kind of stuff at the United States Senate." And he laughed at me. And the stuff I've heard over the 15 votes in the House of Representatives indicates there were times of lack of civility there. But skipping that, McNeese State University, which is the one I happened to drag out of the web 2 months ago. Civility requires treating with dignity, respect, and making good faith effort with regard to others' feelings. Corrective action may be taken by managers to enhance work performance. The language used to correct or reinforce work standards must be respectful and work-related. Civility, I underline, civility requires that even the most critical feedback be delivered respectfully, privately, courteously. I'm just believe a statement ought to be made to the board that we are paying attention and listening. Oh, and guest, I forgot Laura's here. Hi, Laura.
Hi.
So I recommended this, but I underlined that first line, anyone who can do it better, please do. But here is a suggested statement to the board. Again, just that people are listening without offering chapter and verse where someone might have said something. I don't think that's important. I think making a statement is important. Are there any comments here?
just a question, Marty. The statement is just something you'd like to read at the board meeting? Is it something you'd like to put somewhere?
At the moment, I'm afraid to put it anywhere. Yes, at the moment, just read it, just to make people aware. The press is aware. Their editorial 3 months ago, they recognized that, Riverdale Press, and people have made comments that it is a very tense feeling at board meetings that's been created by comments people have made.
Marty, I apologize. I don't know if you see the hands raised because you're in share screen, but I have a hand raised. Just let me know.
I don't see any hand raised because I'm not looking at them, but okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you. Just to say that, how to say, something somehow probably does need to be said, but also to point out that, how to say, I shared with somebody some links from Riverdale Press from previous years, where this issue did come up in the way members speak sometimes to either outsiders or, anyways, this issue has been there for a while, I guess is what I'm saying. And also in recent years, just in my short memory, the last 2 years, and even in a meeting this year, a city agency staff were called things that should not be called. The word, I don't know if I want to reproduce it, but anyway, it was
I
an
do not
insult.
wish to go off the chapter and verse, which is what I said.
Sir, the only thing I'm saying is that this provision should not only be applied to members and the public, but also in the way we refer to city agencies. Because there were recent meetings where insults were referred to city agencies officials. And this provision that you're making that I think should be in a way reiterated, should apply also in the way members of the board refer to city agencies. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Exactly correct, Marty. Thank you.
Thank you, Camelia. So we're not gonna spend all night discussing this? We're satisfied?
Just a quick one. Let me just read it real quick. I think it's not just, oral communications. I've seen some really horrendous written communications over the years. So let's see. I'm just reading it now. Yeah, something, yeah, there's been some horrendous emails flying around. So. Thanks.
I think, Marty, another part of it is, when people are asking questions as well, it's part of like the varying opinions. An essential element of an effective community board is for varying opinions to be discussed and questions asked.
I don't see where you are.
Oh, I'm sorry. In your the second sentence, an essential element of an effective community board is for varying opinions to be discussed, comma.
Right.
And what I'm saying is, and questions asked. Because we often ask questions of other members, we ask questions of committee chairs, we ask questions of agency
Yeah,
personnel when they come in.
Discussion?
Well, I think what we have, an essential element of an effect is for varying opinions. Unless I'm missing the discussion part of it. Thank you.
Everyone satisfied?
I have my hand raised, Marty.
I don't see hands. I'm sorry. I'm not looking
Oh,
there.
okay, sorry. All right. So I think that when you talk about civility and board climate, understood, we are all volunteers. We are not on trial. Sometimes I have observed board members badgering other board members, like a diatribe, and it's just something that's sad to witness, and it's happened on our board this year, and it has happened to me, where we should not badger. We should not make anyone feel harassed.
I think that's the nature of what this is supposed to say.
Okay, well, I'm saying it. comments, questions, discussion should not include badgering. No one is on trial.
I think it's
Strikes me
properly
that-
worded.
Strikes me that puts this in a defensive mode. I don't want to be there.
I don't know, I'm just saying we're sharing what we're seeing as issues that
Yeah, and I appreciate
have
the
a
comment.
chilling effect on discussion and climate. When people witness that, they don't want to open their mouths.
Mhm.
Lisa,
Yeah, I can understand that because sometimes the questions, it's like question. So I understand Laura's mention of badgering. I mean, so we do need to have discussion, but sometimes it's so intense that it's almost like weaponizing our discussion. I don't know.
It's really not a discussion. It's more like a trial, but none of us
Yeah.
are on trial.
Mm.
So I just want to get that out.
again,
I-
it's my feeling that what you're saying, I agree with. But I think it places this statement in a defensive mode. And I think I don't want to be in that defensive mode. Nor do I want to do chapter and verse. You said this on this date.
All right, well, I mean, this is a start, Marty, on, an element is vary opinions. It's not a place for scapegoating. It's not a place for the way the board has been used, speeches. That's what we need to control. Recognize and control. I know I'm getting better at that. It's not easy.
Um,
No, this is fine. It's a beginning. It's a recognition that there are standards.
did I hear you, Dan?
Nope.
Okay, so as of right now, I plan to read this at the board meeting next week. And generates my being badgered. I think that would be the end of it, hopefully. We shouldn't have to come back to it. But at least we have something to reference. Moving the agenda, I sent out this letter. I'm not going across all of the letter, but I raised what I said were outstanding issues. And I offered some comments. But I'm here to see that we've resolved this, at least in our own minds. So back to paragraphs A and B, the main issues that we seem to have argument over last time. And we've got the two comments from both Coog, I've heard it pronounced now Coog, from the Coog office itself, and the BP's office, that paragraphs A and B are separate. We have to establish B procedures and post procedures. And paragraph A, we already did. And that was passing the resolution concerning hybrid meetings, which I now believe firmly was a mistake and was totally a Trojan horse. And we could live very well without it. And hopefully we'll have something tonight in terms of recommendations, which probably will not go to the executive tomorrow night. In time to clean up whatever we've written, and then next month, go through that process. Question, do we need to identify the board member? Why a board member was granted extraordinary circumstances? We pondered this for lots of reasons, but at the Coog meeting that I attended remotely back in December, the answer is no. We need to maintain a record of who has made requests and why, but the minutes do not have to reflect John Doe is out because she had to diaper his baby. Not necessary. So if it's granted, then that's what the minutes reflect. John Doe is participating, we'll find the right language, participating under extraordinary circumstances.
Marty, may I
Yeah.
interject something? I'm sorry, you don't see my hand. I specifically asked Tom Lucchini at the BP's office about this, and he suggested this language. On the minutes, board members, so-and-so have met the criteria for extraordinary circumstances and have been approved to participate remotely by the chair. And that's all you
Yeah.
have to say.
And he always defers back to the board if we have an opinion. In my opinion, it's a category. And it
Fine,
goes
but the
without
main
saying,
thing is, we don't need to be specific.
have
yeah.
been, and I hope it's a few people over a very limited time. But anyone who receives extraordinary circumstance permission to participate remotely will be noted. Present, absent, participating, or whatever order comes in, participating under extraordinary circumstances. And obviously was approved, and the procedures indicate how one gets approval. Question 3, is there a time standard for a question? In spite of what was read and interpreted in the model put out by Coog, it's totally up to the board to decide whether it's 6 months in advance or it's 6 hours in advance. It's our decision, not what the model indicates as a suggestion. So we can come back to that question when we look at the document itself. Is a second notification required? We got this from the VP's office that this item placed on our agenda, and it goes out the first time. Please note, board members requesting exemption of extraordinary circumstances must notify the chair or committee chair, and we'll fill that in advance. Members who receive this exemption and will participate remotely will be announced at the beginning of the meeting. And then I just added this based on something else that Tom said. In the case of hybrid meetings, and let's define hybrid. Hybrid is when we have granted someone extraordinary circumstance. There's either in-person meeting or there's not in-person meeting. In-person meeting, everyone who is participating is there, the public as well as board members. In a hybrid meeting, we can allow someone or some few to participate remotely. But the minute that happens, that becomes a hybrid meeting, and the public has to be allowed to participate in the same way a board member does. So if it's an in-person meeting, even though it's Zoomed, even though people are watching, they cannot participate because it's not a hybrid meeting. The minute we allow an individual or more to participate remotely, the public has that same right.
Question?
Ed,
What if every committee member, it's a committee, let's say, every committee member is there in person, but we do want the public to participate?
it must be in person. The
Why?
law, which we'll go through a little later, down here, where the law will go through later, very lays out specifically that the intent is to get things back to normal. And normal was in-person meeting means the board and the public. And that's the intent. And
So we
get to-
can't have,
And we'll get to the issue later about
Mhm.
board members who don't want to leave the house or cannot leave the house. Then they cannot participate.
Marty,
Yes.
I'd like some clarification about what you're saying with Tom. I'd appreciate that. Because if we have people coming to the conference room, I'll use the ENS as an example. We couldn't have all fit in the conference room.
Mhm.
So the benefit of having the public being able to Zoom and speak is not just there when we're having a board member having to vote and participate, a board member. The whole purpose of this in the resolution is to promote the public interaction.
Mhm.
So I'd like to double check on how that might not be possible under what you're saying. Because if we have the means to do it, the technology, it will work for us. One of the things that the office said why they want to be able to have Zoom meetings from the office is because there's no way the public will fit in the office.
Mhm.
But you, like ENS, we had members of the public, we had members of the DEP, 2 of them were in person, but some Zoom, and the meeting was able to take place with public participation. I'm just want to question whether you can have public participation if you have the technology to do it and the committee chair
Mhm.
wants it. If every single member of a committee shows up in person, that I'm just not seeing that. Is anybody else seeing what I'm?
Oh,
know,
totally, totally. I mean,
We are not going to resolve this tonight. I
Okay,
have no problem with checking with other sources, but I see nothing that says that's possible. But I'm not the final authority. We have other authorities to look to. And I'd like to hear from a committee member with an opinion other than going to either Coog or the BP. Or in addition to, not other than.
Do you mean on the topic of notice? That part? I mean, we've gone through to a few different places here.
Well, the
Mm.
issue I think we're on right now is whether or not in an in-person meeting where the entire committee is present in a single location does that allow for telecommunication for members of the public to participate, or must the members of the public be present also? That's the question. Camilla?
Yeah, Marty, with all due respect, I'm just publicly thanking Laura and Lisa for asking the same question. Why wouldn't you allow the public to participate on a meeting that has both a physical location and Zoom presence? Like, what is the problem of using 2 means of communication for both the public and the community board? Again, since September, ENS had meetings that were held by me from the location of the office with both public and city representatives and members of the committee participating on both. With all due respect, I want a legal opinion on this, because maybe I'm understanding you incorrectly, but what you seem to be saying is that the public should not participate if I happen to Zoom from the location of the office, and I do not understand the logic of you forbidding the public to participate in ENS meetings if my location happens to be the Zoom in the conference room, where I do allow public to come both in person or to Zoom from their comfortable living rooms.
I want to thank you for the authority you've given me. It is not my decision. I said we need other authority to interpret it, to give us a decision. This is how I read it now. I am not making a decision as to who should or shouldn't. Next one,
Marty, we all agree that if a member of the board is using extraordinary circumstances, the public must be allowed that same participation right. But if
That's what I've
you
said. Ted.
understand that, that's understood. So if I'm, just wanna make sure I got this right. My question is, if that's not the case and the whole committee is present, does that mean the public is precluded from that, using that same participation? And again, the reason this is important is because we don't have venues. If the
Mhm.
We're
public can
beating a dead
participate,
horse.
yeah.
I agree with you. Get outside
All right, I just
counsel.
want to make sure we'll ask the same question, you
I
know.
agree with you. Get outside counsel. It
Okay.
doesn't stop with me. Number 5 was a question of whether or not we have to repeat in the procedures something that's already in the resolution that was passed. I don't believe so, but that's one of the outstanding questions. Does the full board have to vote? I've been beaten up on this one. I am not against voting. And I think tonight, after we decide we have something to present, we should talk about whether or not we need a vote. Legally, we do not. Technically, do we want to? So that's one of our outstanding issues. And number 7, which I added, we've just spent time talking about. So there's no need to talk about it again. Now, I believe is the last emendation of the procedures. I may be wrong because I think the stuff left out of here, I may have given the wrong one. And the last guidelines or procedures I put out was starting with the resolutions. And then this document, which we spent a lot of time beating each other up on. And so maybe it'll make life easier if we talk about Lisa's suggestion, which I put out for discussion, rather than my taking any any right of authorship. So I leave that now to members of the committee to respond to. And I thank Lisa for having taken the time to do this. And again, I'm assuming that I sent it out. People have had a chance to look at it. If not, we can go sentence by sentence.
I think that one question will help with some of these edits, whether or not you could have the members of the public participate remotely, even if, because I think the expectation is for all members to meet in person. I think that's the goal, but there is an exception. But I don't think there's anything to say that, well, again, we're beating a dead horse. But some of the changes relate to that issue of can the public participate remotely, even if all members are in person? As long as the venue is set up for remote meetings. And I mean, so.
We shall read shortly in the report sent out by Coog, which I'm sure you haven't had a chance to say, even seen, Lisa.
No.
But the intent from the first sentence is to make things back the way they were before the pandemic began. That's the intent.
Right.
And the Trojan horse is having hybrid meetings, which I think creates more problems than not.
Well, it also solves, we've been getting so many more members of the public to participate. And we don't have venues large enough to accommodate everybody. So anyway, I thought we killed a few birds with one stone.
The mayor to extend the executive order as long as possible so we can stay on Zoom for everybody. But we have to anticipate that it will end one day. We have to have procedures posted.
Okay.
Are there any comments, or should we read it line by line? Having heard, we'll try line by line. Lisa wrote in her cover letter, which I also believe I sent, I'm not sure I did, no. She was distressed by the word procedures She's heard, I'm distressed by the word hybrid also, but paragraph B on the law said we have to establish procedures.
That's fine. I don't have any issue with the word procedures.
So rather than,
We're talking, it's procedures for the structure of the meeting itself was why I used the term structure. Anyway, okay.
I thought I heard a second voice. Okay, so Lisa begins with the procedures, and then instead of having the intro, she has these items listed. First paragraph, the procedures for meetings hosted by CBA depends on the meeting's venue, space, capacity. 2, the meeting's venue, video conferencing capability, as well as 3, judgment of the board or committee chairperson. We'll get back to that first footnote later. Upon termination of our ability to conduct meetings entirely by video conference, again, we'll get back to number 2. CBA offers 2 options, and I take this out. She describes 2 options, so I'm taking this out. All by myself.
Why'd you change authorization to ability? Our authorization may get terminated, but our ability won't.
Right.
Our ability is based upon whether or not they have the capacity, the technological capacity for us to have such a meeting of a video conferencing.
All right, well, termination means you had it and then you no longer do. And we're not going to lose our ability to do it. I'm now confused by this.
Well, it's not something I'd argue over, but if you, among having the technological ability, you also require the authorization. I understand that the public, what do you call it? The what's our committee? The Public Safety Committee meets at the precinct. Even if they probably do have the capacity, does not allow, will not allow them to broadcast from outside that building.
All right. The only thing that's going to terminate is our authorization. And that hopefully, well, we imagine it will happen somewhere in the coming months. All right.
Oh, shoot, okay.
There you go.
Okay, meetings held in person without video conference capability is number 1. All participants, members, guests, and when needed, CBH staff attend in person. Venue must have sufficient space, capacity to seat participants. Audio recordings of the meeting will be recorded, available on the board's website within 2 days for public viewing. This is what I believe I heard our office staff say. Within 2 days, they turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can ask the board office if that's okay. I put those other comments in there because we used to use, the recorders, the office's recorders. But, someone might not have the recorder and they could use their cell phone as long as they transfer it to either, Zoom or some format that could be posted, but that might be too much detail for this. So anyway, just explaining it. Yeah.
I agree. But on B, not to paint ourselves into a corner, venue must have sufficient space or capacity to accommodate participants. Because otherwise the language could get us in trouble.
Okay. Good.
ODATE. There you go. It's an auto spell checker. That's good.
Well, the machine heard you. That was it.
Yeah.
So this would be like the public safety meetings that were, will probably be all in person. Mhm.
Yes,
We should check,
And-
you raised an
I don't
interesting
think they'll be
point.
recorded either.
What's that, Marty?
I don't think they'll be recorded either.
Yeah, that's my guess.
And we used to record all our meetings. Remember, we used to have the
Tape recorder.
tape recorder.
The
Yeah.
dictaphone.
So
Yeah, we
we
should-
need to put that back on there because we always need a recording to refer to.
Right, but it is possible that the 5-0 won't allow it. We need to find out.
An audio recording?
Yeah, it's possible,
Oh, okay.
possible.
Hmm.
There's a sign up saying no technology, no pictures,
Oh.
no, they have their
Okay.
rules.
Does anyone know what they did before?
They just met in person.
Okay,
And
there
they
was no,
did not
was no
record. In
audio
fact, when I
recording.
was committee chair, I didn't record my meetings. The only
Oh.
meetings that were recorded were the full board and exec, as far as I could recall.
Hmm.
Full board and
Okay.
exec.
Mm.
Committee
well-
meetings did not. need to
Dan, do
be
you
recorded.
remember what happened when you were
Yeah,
chair?
no. For TNT, I think we audio recorded just about every meeting that we could for the most part,
Yeah,
especially
we
the
had
big ones.
dictaphones,
We had the digital
Yeah.
the small
recorder.
digital
Yeah, they never
dictaphone.
worked.
And where,
Well,
where are
digital
those-
was better than the little cassette.
where are those recordings now?
You're in the office somewhere.
Office.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
I
the
didn't. when
digital
I was
ones should
chair.
be on the computer.
I
Mhm.
have a feeling, I remember going back years and years, committees voting on whether to record their meetings or not. Like there was discussion about that and maybe some did, some didn't, but there wasn't except for exec and full board, I don't recall that there was any kind of firm fast rule.
But we should address that as a board. It should be the same across the board.
if possible,
If possible.
back to authorization.
Mhm.
That's
Okay.
different.
Okay.
2A, committee board members. Now, this is the one we're going to discuss we're going to get higher authority to determine the validity of this comment. Community board members must attend in person and constitute a quorum if a board member requests and receives approval for an extenuating circumstance, the meeting becomes a hybrid meeting and the public must also participate based on established board committee rules via teleconferencing. There are some committees that do not, for the executive committee, allow for input from the public.
Well, based on established board committee rules.
That's what I wrote,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, sorry.
So here, again, board members must ensure, be in person. But that the people in person form the quorum. And, we had the debates way back about, you could still have a meeting, you just can't vote on stuff. So it's, oh, never mind. I see what you're saying. So it's just changing the word from forms to constitute a quorum?
Yes.
Okay, never mind. That's fine.
Laura, do you have a question?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'll lower my
Okay.
hand.
It's been up for a while. Okay,
The guests may attend in person or by video conference. And the issue now becomes a conference phone again.
Well, the conference
And-
phone is what we're using now. I'm saying, so when we use Zoom, we have people that call in. And I'm saying the public, they could call in, they don't have to show their face. right?
so why don't we change every reference of video conference to video/teleconference?
For the guests, not for the board members,
Well,
right?
no, wherever we're allowing video conference, it's video/teleconference.
Except for under extenuating circumstances, members have to show their face.
Well, yeah, that's different.
Okay,
But wherever we use the term video conference or teleconference, let's just use video / teleconference. Because
Okay.
we're using it, you know, 3 lines above, it's video conferencing, then it's teleconferencing, then it's video conference. Let's just use one term because that's actually what we want, video / teleconference.
Are you
Okay.
allowed to do teleconferencing?
Yes, except for board members who must show their face, but that's another clause. But Marty, that's true in the line above and 4 lines above.
Well, I'm looking at the line above, I'm not sure. Because now we're talking about a board member participating and they need to be seen. Your
Video
suggestion-
/ teleconference.
So as long as they're using a phone that has Zoom capability.
The
I think.
issue of somebody using an older phone still has not been resolved. And I don't know that we'll ever be able to resolve it unless we get dispensation from the BP's office. And
Well, the answer is no. And guess, and so far from what Laura has reported with discussions with the BP's office, the law is very specific. And the answer has to be no.
all right, well, then 2 members of our board are going to be disenfranchised,
Yeah, we have
at
to
least.
figure that one.
And if there wasn't the option of a hybrid, you'd have the same problem.
I understand, but we are where we are now, not 3 years ago. Marty, please go up 5 lines and change that to video / teleconferencing. Well, you're gonna need to do a global search actually, because it's 5 lines above, then another 6 lines above, and probably all over the place.
Okay, I will look over it again.
Okay,
Come on.
there you go.
You all know I'm a terrible typist. So we putting the phone back, or we don't need the phone, it's video.
Oh, teleconference will do it, yeah.
Venue space is limited. Now, what do you think of C?
Yeah, because we do have this space issue, so this is
Yep.
saying, you know, people, and I don't know if we can require people to attend virtually, you know, guests.
Right, but encourage is fair.
And I don't think we need D.
Well, that's actually important because
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
video, I have a Zoom account and I shouldn't use my own. I need to use the official one and record it to, you know, so it's always there, you know, available for the, whatever, for the public, you know.
But none of us are doing, this. The board is doing this and taking care of it.
What's that?
You're breaking up, Marty.
Yeah.
D is meant for the committee chairs instructions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost Marty.
Okay, extenuating
Oh, you're
circumstance.
there.
Am I back? My unstable sign left.
Hmm.
If limited, exceptional, pre-approved situations, a committee board and did we say, you say community, committee, a community,
Yeah.
community committee member also. They don't count to the quorum, but they should be
Okay.
required to be physically present too, shouldn't they?
Right, they should be required to be physically present, and the question is, do they also get extenuating circumstances? I mean, I think why not, but, you know, I don't know,
Well, the issue is
because they could vote.
basically is
so-
having a quorum and community members do not count toward the quorum.
Right, But can they vote with exceptional circumstances on Zoom? I don't know the answer, yeah.
I can't imagine if they're part of the committee, why they can't vote.
Yeah,
If
I
they
would
use
think so.
extenuating circumstances,
Right,
they're allowed to vote.
right.
That's not taken away from them. They never counted for quorum anyway, but they were voters.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
so they can qualify for extenuating circumstances as well. So that's good, we'll keep,
Well, the issue then is whether or not a community member's approval for extenuating circumstance turns the meeting into a hybrid meeting.
well, you know me, I think it's hybrid with a small h anyway. Not a big H hybrid, but,
But hybrid opens the door up to other issues, which we're going to discuss whether or not the public participates in non-hybrid meetings.
Marty, maybe we should also discuss further with the BP at what juncture, like you said, it becomes hybrid and this question of the community committee member.
Well,
And that's
Dan
the
is
list.
here and the two legal members of my committee both impressed upon me that that's when it becomes a hybrid meeting.
But there was also the thought that we had to send out several agendas, and that's not
we
so.
don't.
That wasn't written out. That's different than the comments you said. A meeting becomes a hybrid meeting when we approve someone participating off-site.
And that's what we're gonna check with legal.
No, the legal is the same thing. The question is whether or not hybrid or not hybrid, can the public still participate?
No, it means like, so if every member is gonna be in person, does that mean we're not allowed to have the public
That's
attend
the question.
by video?
We're back at it again. That's the question. Yes, we're gonna televise, we're gonna teleconference, but the question we need an answer to is, are they still able to participate?
No,
I can't see how we can have different rules for their participation.
Well, the argument last month, and I'm asking maybe Dan will help on this. The argument we had last month, 2 months ago, was sending out second notification, which I'm not discussing. The issue underneath that was the fact that the public needed to know that this was now a hybrid meeting and they could participate. That was the basis of that discussion. Dan, am I getting that right?
I think that was part of what we discussed, yeah. Meaning the issue is you start as an in-person meeting, and then at some point in time, you go to a video conferencing meeting based upon an extraordinary circumstance. How do you let the public know that they have the ability to participate?
Okay, so that's the key. The last phrase is the key question, which is being raised now. We presumed last meeting, back in November, that an in-person meeting did not allow the public to participate. And if it turned into a hybrid meeting, then the public had to know they had the option. That was a discussion in November.
so, okay, let's use the example, let's pretend that public safety is allowed to do video conference. Whatever, they decide to do an all-person meeting. If somebody on the committee wants to do, it has an exceptional situation, does that mean the committee must then turn the cameras on for video conferencing? Because one person, even though it was always designed to be an in-person meeting, I mean, do they have to then find a new venue where they could do video conferencing to accommodate? I don't think so.
I
Okay.
think so. Exactly what you said. When the captain or whomever says you cannot no telecommunication from in here, period, then the fact that a member of the committee needs extenuating circumstances does not countermand the commanding officer.
Right, but what, okay, so what if it's
Or
in
the
a?
committee chair who doesn't want it.
Yeah, what if we go to, I don't know, we have it at a library, well, libraries have it, but, just someplace that doesn't have video conferencing capabilities. And, well, you have to change venues because one person on the committee decides that they can't attend in person, so you have to move the meeting? It doesn't make sense.
That's the situation we're in right now. There are few, if none, venues that meet all of our conditions.
Laura's raising her hand.
Yeah, maybe this will help clarify. I'm reading from the, be it resolved from the May resolution. Therefore, be it resolved that public meetings of the board or its committees that utilize video conferencing will be appropriately publicly noticed and include physical locations and remote links with directions on how to participate pursuant to the new open meetings law. So it's on the agenda. If the public gets a notice and there's a Zoom link on it, they're going to assume they can Zoom in.
Yeah.
Our members know they have to show up.
Right.
If
That's-
we are meeting at a place that we know doesn't have Wi-Fi, there won't be a Zoom link on that agenda. It just won't be there. That's the planning between the committee chair and the office on where the meeting will be held and what the capabilities are. If the public gets a notice that doesn't have a Zoom link, they have to show up, period.
But the piece
So
you
it's
just
all
sent,
about the agenda.
the piece you just sent me from the BP's office, Tom, indicates that a notice on our notice indicates that if someone has extenuating circumstances, then it becomes a hybrid meeting.
No, but the only reason he said put that on your notice is because you're not sending out subsequent notices. Not
Okay.
needed. That's why he gave the language. He said, the reason is that if you have members who are participating under extraordinary circumstances, the public needs to know who's not there, who it is. So it's announced at the beginning of the meeting. That's something new. That's something he just said to me, and he put it in writing and he gave me the language. He said, this is what I sent to you. So
It's on
there
your
are
screen right now.
there are no multiple things going out. And I think the only practical matter is that the public will assume if we're not going to be able to have them participate other than viewing on Zoom, we would have to put that on the agenda. In which case, there's no extraordinary circumstance for our members. Because if we give extraordinary circumstance for our members, then we have to give the same for the public. So it's all about the agenda. And I think that even though we didn't know a lot of things in May, we knew that we had to put physical links, remote links and physical locations and explain on the agenda so that the public can anticipate the amount of participation. And if there's any participation. My 2 cents.
Okay, we're back where we started from. Nothing has changed. We still need a higher authority to resolve this question. Where were we? We were up to
Extenuating circumstances, yeah.
here, thank you. Before the scheduled meeting time starts, provide a chair with the reasons for such request. Number 3, we can eliminate footnote number 3, since documents can be made public. Yes, the public notice will not say John Doe had a sniffle. Public notice will only say John Doe had extension. whatever
Yeah,
phrase we use.
I put that in. I put that in because if there's a written notice about why you can't attend, you don't want to say that my butt itches, you know, or whatever your problem is, you know. Sorry, this is being recorded, great. But, you know, it's like, that's what, just a warning that, you know, everything you write could be foilable, is foilable. So though you don't have to go in and give details that are of a personal nature. You could
All they
say.
have to indicate, our
What?
only requirement is to indicate on the minutes that somebody was.
This is the request.
Circumstances.
This is in the request for.
Not one.
Oh, wait.
The request has been honest. I cannot attend because, and if you think it's something silly, you better request it.
You're going in and out, Marty, just, you know.
I got new Verizon, and look what's happening. This is-
Pay more, get less.
No, you know, it maybe, you know, it was just advice to people, don't put personal stuff in writing when you're looking for authorization, or it's just a caution not to. I don't care if you take it out or not, you know, but, you know, new members might not know that things can be, you know, published.
We have said here that in order to get permission for extenuating circumstances, you must submit in writing, email, to the appropriate person, a designee, that you need a reason, you have a reason. And I believe you have to express what that reason is.
I would say expressing, can we put the terms general terms, you know, I mean, you really want to put down in writing, I have COVID, or I have, you know, whatever it is, I mean, people don't need, you're sick, that's it, you know, and.
In the old days, if you couldn't make it because you were sick, you didn't make it, you were absent.
you know,
Correct.
Okay, and look, I'm not on the committee, I'm not making it, I'm just offering this up, but,
You know what? I'm sorry, it's Laura. May I, Marty?
ahead.
Tom said that it's not necessary to do anything personal in the minutes, and that's why he gave me that language, but he said.
In the minute,
You should, in the minutes, but he said you should have the specific reason. Because if a committee chair or a chair is getting an email from someone and it's not, doesn't give me enough reason to, you know, why would I say, yeah, sure? You do need a little bit of specifics. It's not for the public, but it's for your request. I mean, and if you're not willing to say a little bit, you know, why you really can't make that meeting and you need extraordinary circumstances, then don't even bother asking, as far as I'm concerned, because it's not for the public. I'm not worried about foil on it either. I mean, I don't know. Tom said, you need to have a reason, a real reason, but you don't need to publicize it, but you need to have it, and you should have it. And I'm sorry, I didn't mention that before because we weren't in that kind of detail.
Okay. Fine. Don't care.
Community board will maintain on file approvals and denials. Members approved to participate virtually under extenuating circumstances need to keep their full names and live video of themselves visible during the meeting. Members who are not approved under extenuating circumstances prior to the meeting may participate online. This is Lisa's idea. No problem with that. Or, God forbid, the condition change, they can actually come to the meeting.
Right.
Members not approved. Okay, got that. Minutes must list members who attended in person as a quorum and list separately members who attended online. We've already said that without indicating why. Attendance and absences at board and committee meetings are tracked and regularly reported to the borough president. I don't know that we need any of these footnotes. We can use one.
Yeah, I mean, we could build number one into the body of the, you know, that sentence. And again, this is in case there's concerns about people, anyone finagling stuff, like, approvals or not, or whatever, So public safety will always be in person only. For example, you don't want to change it based on getting votes or something. I don't know. You don't want to be accused of it. I don't know anyone will really do that.
Well, actually, public safety may not. It's just, it won't be at the precinct, but it's conceivable that the chair has the meeting at the office and then the officers have to call in.
Well, somebody must have thought having the public safety meeting at the precinct, enabling the police officers to attend was a value.
I agree.
Mhm.
It is preferable. And really my point is maybe trying to convince them that they want to provide a little more flexibility. But that's for another day.
Okay, maybe we don't need it. I just thought, our meetings will be held, I can't even say hybrid anymore. I don't know. Anyway, we could take that out. The second footnote I think is important. If you scroll down a little bit, and this is again, the issue that we need to get clarity on. I'm saying you can do it now, Camelia can go to the board office, have a meeting even now, and let people call in. And that's a hybrid meeting, but it's hybrid with a small h, not official city.
Video
hybrid.
teleconference.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I agree. That's what I've been saying since May.
right, but we're saying,
yeah.
yeah.
No,
but
Marty,
we're-
can I say something? Yeah. No, thank you, Lisa and David. Exactly. I mean, the whole purpose is to increase public participation. Whether the public is willing to come to a small room or participate by video conference, it's a bonus from the community board, from any committee, to offer the dual option. Let's not use the word hybrid, Lisa, because it becomes a thing. Dual option. I mean, Marty, all I do is I'm sitting here in front of my computer or phone or whatever, and at the same table, there are 5 other people that are using the same connection, the same electronic access, the same Zoom. That's all. We are here participating, and I have the privilege of giving or not giving public access to speak, but the public can watch me. But I am giving, my individual choice as a chair of the committee to give the public. So again, it's dual option for participation in person at my table where I am. Come here, share my Zoom connection, look at the same camera like I do, or stay at home comfortably. Perfectly fine, for everybody. I don't know, again, why this prohibition for the public to participate. It's absolutely contrary to the spirit.
We are still beating up the same horse, and we still require the same decision from outside. So you can keep arguing this point. We're not changing anything.
Mhm. Well, this is saying that, in this footnote anyway, it's saying even now we can do a dual, whatever you called it, a dual something. version.
Right
Dual
now-
But
participation.
you can't mandate that your members, at this point in time, you can't mandate that members come in person. It's sort of like,
Correct, Lisa, correct.
At this point in time, we are under the mayor's executive order enabling us to have Zoom meetings, period. Now, it strikes me there's one outstanding issue we cannot resolve tonight,
Mhm.
and that is this question of whether or not the public can participate in a meeting announced as in person. Beyond that, my hope is that we can agree that what Lisa has put together and we have commented on will enable us to move this forward with that single exception.
So Marty, what do you mean by move it forward? I know you said you planned on bringing it to the executive committee next month. And I guess the outstanding question is it your intent to make this a law, rules, ethics resolution to be presented to the board?
That is my hope. I'm also hoping that we get an answer to our question before it goes any further, so that we know exactly what we're offering. But if no one has, there aren't anyone who has a problem with this format and its content, that I'd like to put under my arm and believe we have a framework to move, not a procedure, but a framework to move forward. Two people raise their hands. Who do they
Yeah.
be?
Guess who?
Lisa?
Sorry, I feel like I'm speaking a lot even though I'm not on the committee, but I don't know that this really has to go for a vote. We're not talking about the law, we're talking about a process. And I don't think,
Let's come back to vote. Let's just talk about process. Well, I don't want to talk about vote after we discuss content.
okay,
All right.
okay, it was Dan's question on what's next, so,
What's next is I'm gonna sit on this. I'm gonna
Mhm.
report tomorrow night that we have something
Mhm.
that during the course of the month, I will get that out to the executive committee. So they can discuss it next month and have sufficient time to look at it. But it will
Okay.
not go out until we resolve this question. We get a higher authority to
right,
resolve
okay,
the important outstanding question.
okay.
That's where we are. Was there a second hand? Then I'm gonna turn to the committee now.
I do
Exclusive.
have just a question on the content. And
Go
I
ahead.
know you, at one point, it was stated that a second notice does not need to go out, but to address the original question that we had discussed back in November that Steve and I, I think kind of both raised, which was if the aging committee starts with an in-person meeting at the board office and a Zoom link is presented on that original agenda stating that the public can watch but not participate in the meeting, and then Lisa grants an extraordinary circumstance exemption to a member, which then changes the public's ability to participate in that meeting. Are we now, according to our November resolution, which states that we're going to give the necessary notice to the public, going to send out a notice to the public that we are now operating under an extraordinary circumstance?
If the answer to the question of whether or not public can participate, whether it's hybrid or not, is answered in that direction, then your question becomes moot. Because they're being told the
Can
meeting
you-
is taking place, here is Zoom, and you can anticipate the ability to speak.
No, I guess
Second,
I'm a little bit confused there. Can you just go back to that? You lost me in the first sentence.
I understand the problem that was discussed 2 months ago
Mhm.
was that when you send out a notice for an in-person meeting,
Mhm.
you are presuming that everyone who is participating needs to be present.
Yes.
Now, question becomes, if people can participate by Zoom, even though we declared an in-person meeting, and that's the question that's outstanding, then it becomes irrelevant. If the
Mhm.
meeting becomes hybrid during the course of time, it doesn't matter. Because you've
Correct.
been notified there's a meeting, you've been notified how to participate, and the matter is resolved.
If the answer, correct, so the answer is essentially, I guess the answer to my question is, if it's told to us that we could put a Zoom link on and allow members of the public to participate, even though it's an in-person meeting, then there's no issue.
And there's no issue.
Correct, so we do have an issue though, if it goes the other way.
Mhm.
And pretty much, and I'm going back now to Tom's comment right here.
Mhm.
That if we put this note on all of our notification, public notice, that you'll be told at the beginning of the meeting that X member is participating remotely, then if they could have participated in advance, nothing has changed. And if they plan to attend, they still can do that. And if they plan to watch by Zoom, they will learn that they can participate because it's announced at the beginning of the meeting. And if we have a 6-hour rule, which we haven't come back to, we have a 6-hour rule, it becomes totally impossible to send out a second notice, if that were even thought about.
Can I try a variation on this?
Go ahead.
Can we put in contingent language in the initial invitation saying basically that this meeting is in person with video teleconference access for the community. However, extenuating circumstances may cause us to open the meeting for actual participation by a video teleconference on short notice. And obviously the language needs to be cleaned up, but is that a possibility? Covering
And
our
how
butts
is-
that way.
David, I
How
think
is
the,
this any different?
What were you saying, Dan?
well, David, I would say, I think the issue becomes if somebody, the whole issue is somebody making a decision to come to the meeting or not. And if they think they can participate in the meeting, that might sway their decision to attend the meeting or not. And
I
think that was the
understand that.
whole-
I understand that. But that's why it's contingent language. Things change. And using the term extraordinary circumstances. I would ask the borough president's office if we could use such contingent language. Because I think it's going to be very rare. It would still maximize participation by, showing the community that they can see and hear the meeting from home. The only question is whether they, have to show up to voice their opinion, and how it might on short notice become more flexible to do so
Borough
in a rare
president,
circumstance.
borough president's perspective, and this is what reflects, that this provides us that opportunity to notify the public. Again, this all becomes moot if they can participate either way,
Yeah.
with or without hybrid.
Understood. I'm looking for that middle case.
It's just so funny. It's like, the public can't talk. Let's say it's in the board office, so there's no room. So the public can't talk because someone can't get a babysitter that night. It's, sorry, I just had to get that out.
No, they can
get it
talk
out.
if somebody can't attend because they need a babysitter.
Right, but they
What they're
can't.
saying is they can't talk if everybody attends. But you know
Right.
what? Tom Lucania said to me, there is never going to be a reason that you need to send out another agenda. He gave us wording for that agenda. He told me the reason you need to be identified. And we'll deal with him, tomorrow. We'll do a call very shortly and we'll straighten this out. But if we could just accept the fact that we don't need to send another agenda,
Mhm.
then life will be much easier.
So
Sorry,
again,
can I interject? Sorry.
I'm holding this committee right now. And Laura, please, I'm holding this committee, only committee members.
Got it. Got it.
If the answer comes back that public can participate either way, then this becomes totally moot and we're spinning wheels on this for nothing. If it's a situation where if it's only quote hybrid, then this kind of notification has to be sent out. At the moment, I would like to wait to hear what comes back.
So let's wait.
So the question I asked before remains. Aside from this question, are we as a committee prepared to offer this? Not yet, until we have answers. Are we prepared to offer this to the executive committee to move forward?
I think so.
I can just speak, Marty, I could tell you, like, I did not get a chance to review it, and that's my fault. Like beforehand, so I've been reading as we've gone, and I pulled up. I mean, there's certain language that I think should be changed for clarification reasons, to kind of keep things consistent throughout the document. So for me, I mean, I would, and I could send you my own personal comments. I don't mind doing that outside.
So I repeat my question based on what Dan has just said. With some, I hate the word, wordsmanship that Dan wishes to include, are we satisfied once we answer the important question to move this thing forward? I heard from David. I have a tentative response from Dan. I'm waiting to hear from Sylvia.
Marty, just one question. Did Steve send any comments in at all?
Not that I'm aware of, but I haven't
Okay.
checked my email in the last hour or so.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm guessing if you didn't get it by now, you probably wouldn't, but. Or an hour ago from the start.
Well, I am looking. Okay, get a chance to download. Okay, so I have two comments so far. Dan is still reading. I said Sylvia, I heard no response.
You want a response from me?
If your name is Sylvia,
It is so far. I abstained in November because not you, but collectively are eliminating two people that I'm still concerned about being board members, being on my committee, who call in now that the meetings are on Zoom, and they would be eliminated from participating if we go into in-person meetings. I don't see anything that you have mentioned or Lisa has mentioned. She crossed it out also. We're eliminating that those people. I find that very disturbing. And I think that we have to do something on that particular issue before I would vote for anything, in trying to get them to be able to participate, whether the office will have some tablets that they can borrow. If there is some other kind of solution that would involve them in the meetings, then I would be happy to vote for most of this. But each time we come together, that phrase is crossed out. We're
Time.
eliminating people that the borough president has on the board. We are not in a position to eliminate them.
I want to thank you as I can thank Camelia for giving me more power than I have. This is what the law says.
So
So your abstention is noted. but it's not going to change the law.
Marty, I know we had discussed, I think at the, I don't remember if it was the board meeting or the LRE meeting, at one of our meetings, we had discussed the purchase of those tablets. Did you get any word, and maybe Laura can chime in here, did we purchase any tablets yet for folks to perhaps borrow? And I don't remember if it was discussed at this committee or at a board meeting, but I know it was discussed at some point.
Yeah, I mentioned it. I thought it was a good idea. However, what that means is that on a monthly basis, these two members are going to require continuous exemptions.
I guess,
We have
Also-
in the, Marty, we have in the past lent out computers if someone's computer had to be fixed and they didn't have a replacement. We were able from the office to give them a computer. We do have
You didn't
extras.
hear what I just said.
I
This
did.
means a continuing exemption. Month after month, meeting after meeting, not only your committee, but the board itself and whatever other committees they're on. So it's, again, it's a question of the law. Which I did not write.
If we offer them the use of the tablet or whatever
How-
it is that we can avail ourselves in letting them use, this is not the same thing.
Yes, it is.
It's
What
not
you're
an
saying
extenuating circumstance.
It's an extenuating circumstance, month after month, meeting after meeting.
I don't understand why that is. Why you consider that the same thing. With all due respect, I really don't understand that.
If they are not present, they are either absent or they received permission for extenuating circumstance. For board
But-
meetings, education committee meetings, for whatever other meeting.
But why couldn't they be seen on the tablet? I don't know how they work really, because I don't own one.
They can't use the tablet unless they have extenuating circumstance. You're talking about now, while we're under the mayor's executive order? That's totally appropriate if we can get
I
them something.
understand. Well, I think that something should be done about that. I'm sorry. That's my position.
Well, that's a good point because it is, I mean, an extenuating circumstance, which is where they would fit in, is supposed to be rare. As much as I too am very concerned about those two individuals and their ability to participate, the extenuating circumstances are supposed to be very rare.
understood. I think in dealing with the extraordinary circumstances, like everything else, you know, it's, or the way we're structuring it now, we're, I guess, trusting the judgment of the specific committee chair or I guess board chair within the board meeting. And I guess anybody's extraordinary exemption would be subject to, I guess, questioning after the event at some point in time.
So therefore, after now, because of this procedure for the hybrid meetings, even though the borough president appoints people, they have to be able to be on a computer in order to participate. Being a member of the board doesn't count.
For folks who have this disability or illness, I guess it's being structured that way. But I think, you know, in practice, what would occur is, you know, I don't know, a committee chair grants an exemption to, I don't know, Lisa, aging committee grants an exemption to Rita because Rita has some extraordinary circumstance. And Rita has an extraordinary circumstance that goes, I don't know, February, March, April. and Lisa grants that extraordinary circumstances for those 3 months, I guess at some point in time, you know, Marty could say, hey, Lisa, why are you granting an extraordinary circumstances in each of these 3 months? And we deal with the issue at that point in some form or manner.
But my point is, we should deal with it now before we okay these procedures.
Well, I don't
So it
think
wouldn't exist.
can I speak? Sorry, or Laura wanted to speak too, but I mean, we're not making up the law here. And I totally agree. I mean, my committee, we won't have anyone on our committee. Once, you know, even when in person is required, if there's still health concerns. And, but, you know, I think that's a question to go to the borough president for an extraordinary exemption that in this situation, people can, you know, tune in by phone. I mean, if they don't have.
Laura, I believe Laura already asked the question of the BP, and the
Okay,
answer was no.
wow, okay.
You know what, Lisa, everybody, I argued this with the borough president's office. I talked about age, seniors, disability, lack of Wi-Fi, and, you know,
Yeah.
in Marlboro. And Kira was on that call, and he was sad, but he said, that is the law. Then when I had the opportunity to talk to Kristen O'Neill, the Deputy Director, Open of
Coog.
Committee on Open Government, I did the same drip on her, that we have 2 members. This is very disturbing. She said there's nothing that could be done. Maybe she could go to a neighbor's house. You know, she was saying, like,
Yeah,
try to figure out something and do it from there. Da, 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 da. Now, so she said, this is the law, and the law is going to go on until I think a certain point in 24 and voice our objections. Now, I see 2 different issues here. All right. One is the show face, which is the big problem. If you want to get the extraordinary circumstance for this, we will give Georgia a laptop. I understand from Margaret that she might have access to a computer. So it might be a challenge, but we could try. I'm not sure that they both have Wi-Fi. So
yeah, they need broadband, actually broadband.
broadband
Yeah,
for the computer. You know, that would remain to be seen. But Sylvia, you're absolutely right. Everything that we could do, we should do. That's the first issue, show face. But the second issue of how often, because it would be on a regular basis for everything, I believe that's on us. That's a question of if we as a board want to approve that. That's not the state and that's not in the law. Yes, it's supposed to be, you know, rare. But again, I think that falls under our procedures. So I don't see that as a big problem. That is the situation, and they will have to use extraordinary circumstance for their 2 committees. And I don't really think that's a problem. The problem is getting them technologically up on this show face. Okay, and we're going to work on that for sure.
It's all gonna change when there's an ADA lawsuit about this. But for now, this is what we gotta do.
But I'm very disturbed.
Yeah, no, I
am
agree. I agree.
Extremely, I am extremely disturbed. But I have brought it as far as possible and had many, more than one conversations about this, and they say it's baked. It's baked in the law.
And the law stinks, but that's what it is. So I'm taking Sylvia's vote as an abstention. Dan, it's up to you again, whether or not this moves forward.
Look, for now, time-wise, I would just like to. I think one of the biggest issues I have is the notice. I would love to have the answer to that, and obviously we all want to move this forward. You know,
Well, the notice is gonna be what it's gonna be.
and if it goes the other way, then I think we need to
Let's
discuss
deal with
it,
that then.
right? No, I understand. It's
I understand
back-
your
I'm sorry, I'm just
reservations,
going
but
to-
let's move this
No,
forward.
it's okay. I mean, look, David, I mean, if you wanna vote
It
for it, go
could
ahead.
be
We can
we
see
may
where we're at.
decide on our own to allow people in-person meetings to participate. And without a question of violating the law, it's a question we allow people to participate. Maybe that's the decision we make.
I'm sorry, I'm just going back to it.
Two hands are up. I don't know who they are.
Laura, is your hand up?
Yeah. Members who I think the other thing, Marty, that I would just, and again, I want to go through the language, but I know we had a back and forth about, there were two sections of the law that were not in there, assuming, not to get into a back and forth, a line basically stating that, the rules are subject to POL 103-A, which is the section that this comes under, rather than listing it, just so it's identified within our procedures. I don't know that members would have an issue with that or not.
No, add that.
Yeah, and then I would just want to check the language. I mean, I think we
Okay.
need meeting procedures to move forward. It's just,
I'm authorizing you to make,
so then what I would say is this.
wordsmith.
Based upon the fact that this will be an LRE resolution coming to the board, it's your intent to make this an LRE resolution to come to the board. I think that was the language used.
Language, yes, but I'm gonna sit
yeah.
on it until we resolve these outstanding issues.
I think, I'd be comfortable moving forward with a resolution from the committee, but but you're not prepared to do that yet? You don't want to do that yet?
I am prepared to ask, which I'm doing right now, asking the
Yeah.
committee to move this forward pending wordsmanship and an answer to our question, unless you want to answer a question ourselves. And that is,
No, I don't-
at all
yeah.
meetings, we will allow participation as appropriate.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Amelia, I'll get to you in a second. I'm prepared to move this forward. The outstanding question, which I don't think needs to be a question because we can make our own decision. And that is, we will permit the public to participate, whether it's an in-person meeting or a hybrid meeting, they can still participate. And all of this discussion becomes moot.
You mean without even checking, we're just gonna do it? Is that what you're
I'm
suggesting?
suggesting that we'll make
Oh,
that
okay.
our committee rules, part of our procedures. They'll be able to participate via Zoom as
Mhm.
appropriate.
Understood. So then the last question for me, Marty, that was sitting out there was the pre-approval, the time frame for the pre-approval. I'm just going back to it. I think we had skipped over it earlier, right? What was your time frame for pre-approval?
My time frame is we in public right now are going to decide if this is our resolution, pending some wordsmanship. When the
Mhm.
wordsmanship is taken care of and it's shared with the committee members, which I will do,
Mhm.
I will then move it forward and send a copy to the executive committee for them to talk about at their next meeting in February. Pending that, it will go before the full board, and I want to make sure the full board has in their hands a copy of the resolution so that they can talk about what they're seeing,
You mean the procedure,
the
Right.
procedure,
Right.
yes.
not the resolution, yeah.
Well, it'll be in a form of, well, let's, okay, we didn't come to that question yet. Let's come back to that question when we finish this. Is this the procedure we wish to follow?
Right.
Is everyone happy pending wordsmanship
Mhm.
to move
Yeah, I think
forward.
just the outstanding issue that I have is like the notice period for it. And then, yeah, assuming that we're allowing everybody to kind of participate to the
You
extent
don't
that
need notice.
we have that.
Right. Notice is
We
not
wouldn't
an
need
issue
it, correct.
because hybrid, no hybrid, public can participate.
Understood, and that would be, if we do that, it eliminates that issue, which is wonderful. The issue I was asking, Marty, was how much time does a committee member asking for extraordinary circumstances need to give to the committee chair?
Well, right now, we're not committed to 6 hour meeting or too much. Meeting starts right now, they're starting at 7. If they're in person, they may go back to 8. So do you want to, instead of 6 hours, I think originally, okay, what Lisa has here is 6 hours before the meeting. We had said 12 o'clock.
I think the uniformity of noon is a better idea.
I mean, for me,
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I'll
Is it-
fix it up.
assuming we're giving everybody the right to participate, doesn't matter. So, and again, I'm not a committee chair right now, but would a chair want more notice? Would they want 24 hours notice if somebody can't make it? And there's several chairs on the call here. Yeah, I think if you do a 6 hours or even if it's 7 hours, I think you turn it into a bit of a scramble for some committee chairs.
Yeah. And I agree with that, as well as having the uniformity of everybody knowing that it's noon.
Mhm.
So, figure out your babysitting, figure out your fever, whatever, but by noon.
All right, what happened? I got lost again.
Oh, there you are.
Okay, so I changed it to, come on,
In writing by noon of the date. There you go.
noon by the day of the meeting. The day of the meeting. No, writing by noon of the date of the meeting.
And you can drop that before the scheduled meeting start time.
So, and again, the reason why I was suggesting maybe 24 hours is somebody reaches out to a chair and that chair is not accessible that day.
All right, so why not just say the member
24
should,
hours before or 5 p.m.
well,
the
should
day
request
before.
as early as possible, however, no later than.
One. Warned you.
I'm glad you're not doing a term paper, Marty.
Amazed me I got through college. Like, put it that way. The papers I wrote, and all I had then was whiteout.
There you go. Okay.
Then
Again,
I
I
will
think-
send you an
Yeah, no, I
updated
mean-
copy, and then you can give me your suggestions.
Will do.
So I have your vote. We passed this 3-0
Well-
to 1.
I think the noon is still early, but that's fine, provided that, it's our intention to send this to the board. I think it's an important thing to do.
Okay, so I breathe easier now, at least for a little while.
We could
Camelia, you had
eliminate
something to
start
say?
time. Yeah.
Camelia, you had something to say?
Oh, yes, thanks for remembering me, Marty. Yeah, just, the same way as I argued for the chairs to have the ability to give permission to the community to participate while on Zoom. Maybe some chairs deliberately do not want that. So I was just wondering if you may want to use at critical points in this document, comma, at the discretion of the chair in terms of allowing or not allowing Zoom community members to participate or not, right? Because maybe some committee chairs, when the time comes and we must be in person, maybe they want to broadcast on Zoom, but they don't necessarily want to see how many people on Zoom that are not committee members, that are community members, have their hands up. So just wanted to suggest this because throughout all this debate, there was no mention of the chair of the meeting, the committee chair, own power in conducting the meeting. So just wanted to put this for your consideration. If you may want to add like comma at the discretion of committee chair, it's here and there.
Well, I think it's right below there.
Go ahead, Dave.
Right below in extenuating circumstances, that's where the discretion is given. So
So,
extenuating
and the
circumstances, in
Yeah.
limited exceptional pre-approved situations, at the discretion of the committee board or slash board chair, a member may be authorized to participate via video teleconference.
I think there is. Oh, okay, yeah.
I didn't
Okay,
catch-
that covers it. Yes, thanks, Marty.
Yeah, but David, my computer went out. I didn't catch all your comments. Dave? Dave, are you there?
Marty, sorry, you
Oh,
also
I'm
may
sorry,
wanna change.
I was
Oh.
muted. Sorry, Marty. I think what she's referring to is the extenuating circumstances being granted right at the bottom of that display there. The thing you typed in was only about guests.
David, you're correct, but I was just about to suggest that the word guest could be replaced by anyone, because the chair of the committee may give the grant to speak, may grant the right to speak to anyone, including a just regular public. So anyone instead of guests only. Guests to me means if I invite DP, I can grant them that right. But maybe I want to have Jody Colon, which will never attend again an in-person meeting, and I want her to be able to speak at my discretion, though.
All right, let me play with this.
Okay, Good
I have
idea.
the idea,
okay, good.
May I say
It's-
something?
and you'll all
Marty?
have copies. Who am I hearing from?
Laura,
Laura?
to Camille's point, we have all different protocols. At executive committee, we don't have the public speak. At LRE, you don't have the public speak, so to speak. In fact, it's a stretch that you're letting members who are not committee members speak at all, historically. So, but one thing I just want to point out, and one of our whereases in the resolution, whereas community board aid committees may or may not, and this is to Camilla's point, choose to implement the hybrid model at their discretion, so long as the public notice specifically advises the community when the hybrid model will be utilized. The way we used hybrid in this whole thing was not the way we're talking about it now. It means means virtual. And that's what we meant here. So again, it all goes back to the agenda. If the public notice advises the community when, how, if, then, that's the message I got from the BP.
Yeah,
And-
but
And
the
it also
phrase
goes-
right
it
here,
also goes back to what the focus of the committee chair wants.
Right,
You know, So we
Laura,
want to
right
make
here.
sure we preserve all those options.
Laura, right here, board committee rules, based on established board committee rules. If executive committee doesn't allow it, it doesn't allow it.
Good.
Marty, you
Yes.
have the gist of our comments at this point, don't you?
I hope so.
Okay, we're 2 hours into this meeting. Can you go back and do your draft and send it out to us so we can get on to the next part?
Yeah, I'll do that. Tomorrow I'll do that.
Excellent. All right, so can we get on to, I guess, the Coog report?
But we have a vote now to move it forward, and I thank you very much. The Cougar report, I'm hoping some folks read it. When I transmitted from what Sergio sent to here, it got all screwed up, so I spent a lot of time trying to reformat it, which is driving me nuts. But to all of you who complained earlier, many hope that 2022 would usher in a return to normalcy in all government operations after 2 years of challenge and uncertainty. The goal of this law is to have all in-person meetings, period. To allow, not only later on, it says teleconferencing to allow the community to observe. And that's all that's required by the law, by the way. We may want them to speak, and we've said that, but the law only requires that they observe and hear. So this came out, thanks to Sergio. I received it. I've seen no other reference to this, but it is interesting. Note, they are trying, this is a recommendation to the legislature of how Coog feels right now about how the law is working. There are two issues come right at the beginning. One, they think that FOIL isn't strong enough. And what upsets me and distresses me about all this is that we are puppies in the world of Great Danes. We are Chihuahua puppies in the world of Great Danes. And so these laws apply to us as stringently as it applies to the New York City Council. Not very fair. So while FOIL is important and I support FOIL, just know, we'll come down later on, it talks about, I don't know the word, felony, misdemeanor charges against boards that withhold public information under a FOIL request. I mean, it's very stringent and very hard. And the Committee on Open Government is looking for authority. They have no authority now. Now they only give opinions. And then if you have a problem, you go to the courts, and the courts decide whether or not you're right or wrong, or they're right or wrong. They want the full authority to hold hearings, to make decisions, to, in fact, they want the legislature to give them real power. And that's scary. Current temporary construct for appeal and enforcement places an expensive and I'm out again, right? The current statutory construct for appeal and enforcement places an expensive and time-consuming burden on private citizens. So I agree with the intent. I'm just concerned about the heavy hammer they're using. And again, page 2, my pages don't align because I had a, we urge the legislature to investigate new ways for achieving timely and cost-effective access to government information through improved oversight and enforcement mechanisms. After nearly 50 years, the time for such a comprehensive review and overhaul is long overdue. And I don't want to spend too much time on too much. I have pointed 2 laws here for consideration. Additionally, the proposed amends the penal law to criminalize as a Class B misdemeanor a failure to comply with FOIL. Somebody makes a FOIL request of our board for which we do not have the staffing for it, which is why I say New York City versus the Community Board 8. And we decide that it's a protected area and they should not have the information. They have the right to appeal, and Coog, in an opinion, will be very heavy-handed against us. So we have to be very careful. There are reasons why one would not want to share certain types of information. Later on, it tells about probation reports and such. Obviously, we don't deal with that. And then the comparison of various states and how they deal with FOIL. What else did I want to point out? Must improve access to government records. No argument. In this case, all the boldface is their report, not my stuff yet. My stuff is in the red. And if anyone remembers anything that I've read, they want to stop me, please do. I'm gonna get to the important point for us. Here is a serious problem. I attended in November a session with Coog where this came up and I didn't fully understand it. I drafted a letter to Coog and I somehow never mailed it out. So I'm a little concerned. The law and Coog disagree very importantly here. Necessary function in the decision-making process shall not include provision of recommendations or guidance, which is purely advisory. That's what we are. We are advisory. We do not make final decisions. And so the question was whether or not, and I don't think we personally want to change it, but do we come under the open meetings law if we're not in this category, an agency that makes decisions, a public body that makes decisions? The law apparently gives us some latitude. Coog does not. And again, I see no reason to change it. And I will get my draft and send it off to Coog for a better answer. Nevertheless, a number of bodies created by executive order are created to perform functions in the government decision-making progress that are not subject to the open meetings law. The work of our state's public bodies has a profound effect on the functioning of government, essential for a democratic process that members of the public are fully aware of and have opportunity to observe the deliberation decisions that go into public policy. Now, these two sentences are the conflict between the law and Coog and Coog's interpretation. And I have, and no court has yet interpreted whether this change in the law now excludes from coverage all advisory bodies. So we're an advisory body, but the courts have not settled that issue. But I just want to share with you that it's an issue. And they want us to stream all open meetings. There was a law to that effect. It did not get passed. So it mentions here that this was reintroduced bills, but that has not passed yet. Although that's we're operating under that. Now, this is important to the conversation we just had. Included in the bill is an amendment to the open meetings law to allow for the expanded use of video conferencing by public bodies to conduct open meetings under extraordinary circumstances, regardless of a declaration of emergency. These amendments are primarily codified in public law. We've talked about these amendments will expire. Now, that's a critical question. The same way we passed a resolution giving us 6 months bites to decide if we want to amend or get rid of it or leave it as stands. And they've allowed themselves to July 1st, 2024 to make recommendations on what the law should change or not change or just be reissued. Note the law is intended to expand to extraordinary circumstances only. Now the question becomes, and I believe David addressed it, the issue of our two ladies who we'd love to participate in the meetings. The fact is, extraordinary circumstances, they are implying here limited use of this. Multiple uses and continuing uses is not what the law had in mind. And as part of this 2024 preparation to make a recommendation to the legislature, they are looking for comments. People bring back their feedback on how the law is working for them. We have time to do that if we choose to do that. And now that's an important sentence here. Necessary function of the decision-making process shall not include the provision of recommendations or guidance, which is purely advisory, which does not require further action by the state or agency or department thereof, or public corporation as defined as general construction law. Again, we are purely advisory. But I think the hook here is that we make a recommendation to city, state agencies, and therefore, obviously, the public wants to know what went into that decision. Necessary function of the decision-making process shall not include the provision of recommendation or guidance, which is purely advisory, which does not require further action. Well, it requires further action, but we are purely advisory. So just want you to know there's a limbo out there which has not been resolved. And then I'll leave this to Dan and Steve to read about court decisions based upon specific challenges to, for, or against the open meetings law. And I believe I'm almost done. Members of the committee have this. There's a whole nonsense, which I started to put the dot in for, but gave up on. It was just getting too crazy. Of all the agencies they have given workshops. Finally, closing up for COIB, I gave you three, the latest, or the three latest that I received. And these all have the same theme, and the same theme is people leaving their government jobs and getting work to assist, or even while they're still working, assisting an agency or a private enterprise which they've begun working for. And this person paid a $6,000 fine for doing that. The former geologist, which means they fired him, paid only $1,250, but they gave her credit that she self-reported the violation. So why'd she do it in the first place? And this one's misuse. This computer technician for DOE stole equipment, sold equipment that he stole, used school money to purchase items for himself. And they only charged him $1,000 fine, but he served a 35-day suspension, which they figure cost $10,000 personally to him.
They didn't make him make restitution?
He paid $1,000 fine, which took into account he had already served a 35-day suspension. So he paid, Yes, the restitution is not here. So obviously it wasn't, but there's an article if you want, I'll send you the whole case. And you can decide if you're satisfied.
Okay. Sorry, thank you.
Legislative spreadsheet I sent out. The only issue of importance on that I saw was the fact that the city council held a hearing today on forcing 500,000 retirees to be forced into a Medicare Advantage plan. And except for the two agencies on one side, the city, which thinks it's going to save $600 million, which they say the UFT mostly stole because whatever, I guess it was de Blasio who was mayor, authorized the expenditure of those funds for teacher raises. But now municipal labor union municipal labor council has to pay it all back. And they're paying it back on the backs of retirees. So one group was the city, the other group was the municipal labor council. They spoke in favor of it. They wanted, what happened, just quickly, because nobody else cares except Laura and me and Sylvia. What happened was the city decided to on its own make the change, and an organization formed with over 100,000 members now of retirees, and they sued the city, and a judge finally made a decision that the city did not have the power because the charter or the operational, the effective law in the city prevents them from doing it. So the city appealed, went to the Court of Appeals, and they said exactly the same thing. Under the current law, the city does not have the power to make the change. And so they decided it was easier, rather than going up to the appellate division, to just change the law. And so the hearing is that they finally got on the council agenda to change the law. And the council was hearing from all sides, and except for those two groups, every speaker spoke about the need to have options, and the city was not being fair with promises made to employees and taking it all off the back of retirees. I'm sorry it's late, but Dan has an item he wishes to raise. Is Dan there? Am I there?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Yes.
I was saying if we can just do it next month, that would be great. I want to get a draft out to committee members anyway beforehand. And it's been a busy few weeks here.
Perfect. I'll make it the first item.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Any old business? Any new business? Next meeting is February 13th. And I'll take your motion, David.
Ciao for now.
Excellent.
Any second to the motion?
Second,
Okay. Sylvia, do you abstain or are you voting in favor?
I do abstain.
Okay.
All right, then don't hang up.
What was that, Dave?
If she's gonna abstain, then she should not hang
Oh.
up.
All right.
Night all.
Yeah, I
good night, everybody.
got you now.
See you
Good night.
tomorrow.
Meeting ended at 8:12. Thank you all.
9:12.
Bye-bye.
9:12. See, my eyes don't work either.
Aye.